You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. For 14 years, we've been doing the show and over 1,500 episodes we're heading towards. We're about to hit the big anniversary. I got to tell you, we couldn't do the show without you. No, not you back there, not the guy in the green shirt, the guy in the blue shirt. We couldn't do the show without you. Actually, it's all of you that's standing there. So we certainly appreciate you all. As always, a giant hug out to everyone who listens to the show. When was the last time I offered a hug to you people? A big hug. Everyone needs a hug, right? Am I right, Alex? Do people need a hug?
Everybody needs a hug. It's good for the soul.
There you go. It's good for the soul, damn it. And I'm going to use that lead in from Alex, who will be joining us here in a second to tell us about his amazing stuff. He's going to enlighten you and brighten you. And brighten you? Is that a word? Enlighten you and brighten you and bring magic to your life. I just threw a whole lot of work on him. He has to become a magician now, which I don't think is in his wheelhouse. But we'll find out. That's going to be the adventure of the show. But in the meantime, use the show to enlighten, brighten other people, or refer them to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and tell them, God damn it, you're never going to know what the ramble is going to be when Chris Voss starts the show. Some people just go listen to all the rambles when it comes, because I don't know, I just make it up every time because the plugs are boring. At least to you and me. But in the meantime, go give us 5 stars on iTunes. I beg of you, please don't make me cry. I'll give you a second hug. We have an amazing gentleman on the show, and he's not me, as always. With our guests are some of the most smartest people in the world. We put them in the Google machine. We Google them, smartest people in the world, and they come on our show, and they're like, why the hell am I here with this idiot, Chris Voss? This gentleman is an amazing gentleman. His name is Alex Mont-Ros. He is on the show with us today, and he's going to be talking about his amazing company, StepUpMethod.com. And he has a hell of a journey. We're going to be talking about families, fatherhood, marriages, all that sort of good stuff. Most of you may be involved in some of that. I think just about everybody is. Doesn't everybody have kids and maybe is either married or going to be married or all that stuff. So we're talking about how to be better at everything: health, life, fitness, yeah, just everything, damn it. It's all going to be in there. Alex, who's joining us on the show, is a highly driven and accomplished individual who's made a significant impact in both his personal and professional life. He's a mindset coach and co-founder of the Step Up Method with his wife, and he helps men and women achieve their full potential and become the best versions of themselves. Boy, I'm still working on that. I think I'd probably be the best version of myself at, 150 age. In addition to his professional achievements, Alex is a serial entrepreneur who successfully bootstrapped and sold their 2021 business. It was their first 7+ figure business founded by him and his wife. He's also the author of the Family Meeting Planner, which helps parents lead their families effectively with intention and purpose. Outside of his work, he's a devoted father, husband, and philanthropist who helped raise 8 children over the past 2 decades. 8 children! That's a whole podcast right there. We'll get into it. He's an avid combat sports enthusiast. He probably has to fight off most of the 8 children. I'm just kidding. You don't fight your children. I'm just doing jokes, people. Don't write me. And former amateur boxer for UNLV. And he's currently on a journey to become a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He can fight Zuck and Elon in that fight. It's coming up. He's married to his best friend, Lisa. Well, that's unfortunate. Most people aren't, most people, their worst friend is, no, I'm just kidding. I'm doing marriage joke. And the couple's been together for 12 years, so obviously they like each other. Welcome to the show, Alex. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. That was an amazing intro, by the way. And the 8 kids is everybody. Whenever I go into that journey, I'm like, it never makes any sense. So I barely go into the story.
You might have to explain this, real quick.
Yeah, look, at the age of 20, I got married. Mm-hmm. And everybody was telling me, like, Alex, look, are you sure you want to do this at 20 years old? And I'm like, I'm in love. I know it's the right decision for my life. And at the time, my ex-wife, now a little bit older than me, had 3 kids. So I went into a marriage already with 3 kids. By the time I was 23, we had our 2 kids. So I was raising 5 kids, working my ass off, just trying to provide, and did okay. Right. Then the crash of '08 happened, lost everything. And shortly after that, ended up going through a divorce. So that was kind of the journey of the first initial set of kids. And obviously now with my wife, Lisa, we have some kids now. And I thought I was done, by the way. But here was the whole goal. I was going to go into my 40s thinking I was good. So I got remarried to my wife, Lisa. And I thought, hey, she has a daughter. I had my 2 kids. And I was like, I think we're good. And she's like, and I'm already planning my life, my 40s, my 50s. We're going to be travel the world. We're going to do all these things. She's like, hey, I want to have kids. And I'm like, I got to reset myself again to do this all. So anyhow, but it's been a blessing to have, we have our 2 little ones. So now we are a household of 5 kids. Now.
There you go. Well, you gotta work out and be healthy. We'll talk about some of this to chase those kids around. Give us your .com so people can check that out on the interwebs as we lead in.
Sounds good. So at www.stepupmethod.com, that's where you kind of find our backstory, our journey. It's our consulting and coaching company. And we also have familymeetingplanner.com as well. If you want to get a copy of our family meeting planner, you can go there, kind of get a quick breakdown of how it all works, and then order your copy.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you guys coach on, you and your wife, and how it works.
All right. So I'm going to go back to a part of the origin story. And then, so this will kind of give some context. In 2013, we just got married, and the joke was, it wasn't a joke, but I actually had a heart attack at 33.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, man. It was nuts. So thank God that my wife took me to the hospital. We'd been married 6 months. Here's the joke. We're in the hospital as the doctor comes in and says, hey, you're having a heart attack right now, and we got to get you in the back like ASAP. And so my wife looks at me and she's like, did I marry broken goods? And
did she say that to you or just give you that look?
But jokingly.
Oh, okay. So she's joking. She's like,
I can't believe I married broken goods, right? Wow. So anyway, they sent me to the back, and thankfully it got there because I actually had my lower artery descending, which is the widowmaker, they call it, 95% clogged. And had it been fully clogged, or had I not gotten to the hospital in time, I would not be here today. So thankfully she got there. And so that journey, that was kind of the start of really asking myself some serious questions about my life. At the time, I was 33, kind of working through some things in marriage and new family and all this stuff, and work. At the time, I was a managing client partner at Verizon and doing my work there. But I had no intention or purpose really in my journey of life. It was just go to work, make some money, come home, be with the family, do that over and over and over again. And it was a very redundant, to be honest, very average, boring life. And with that came this idea of like, well, I'm not really living with any intention, no purpose. There's not really a growth path for me.
Kind of day to day, right?
It was a day to day, and it didn't matter how much money I was making. I dreaded getting up every day to go to work.
Wow.
And that just started to kind of compound itself over the years. And so in 2016, a few years later, my wife and I started our business. We started Mont-Ros Real Estate Professional Services, which was a transaction coordination company for the real estate industry in Washington. And so we started that, and it was actually the joke about how that started. That was kind of an accident. We just wanted to do an addition to our onto our house at the time, and we needed about $100,000. And we're like, all right, you know what? I think we can kind of start this business up, and we can make that. Well, at the time I was going through an MBA program, and they said, hey, can you do a marketing analysis on a company in Washington, Seattle, general area? And I said, sure. And I asked the professor, I go, can I do one on a startup? And it was my wife's, it was Lisa Mont-Ros Transactions. And she had like 5 clients, I think, at the time. And I was like, can I just do one on a local startup? And he's like, go for it. So that market analysis led me to an understanding that the market for the services we were providing really wasn't, it hadn't seen anything at scale. There was a lot of individual players, but nobody really doing it at the scale that I believe we could potentially grow to. And that started the journey of creating the company, scaling it. And then in 21, we ended up getting acquired by a larger firm. We had a great exit. And
Nice.
so through that, now that leads us to today. Through the journey of having our company and growing that together as a married couple, we learned a lot about ourselves. One, we learned how to be better communicators. We didn't go through a divorce, thank God, because a lot of the story is you co-found a company with your spouse. Chances are you're going to have a lot of long nights, probably arguments and disputes that could potentially crush the marriage, right? So we, at the beginning of our journey, we kind of made some hard ground rules around our life and what we wanted it to look like. And one thing was this, is that we were not going to allow the business to ever override the marriage. So at any given time, we felt that our marriage was going to be at risk of, just kind of crumbling, we were going to be okay letting go of the business. And so that initial kind of conversation and really kind of standard we set in place at the very beginning helped us through many, many hard years of building our company and helping, kind of get it to the place where we needed to get to eventually exit.
You guys have accomplished something very few people can do. I think I read years ago, and just like decades ago, in Harvard Business Review, I think I read only I think it's 4 or 7% of marriages can survive working together. It really is a small number, and not choke each other to death.
Yeah, believe me, there was many, and she probably wanted to choke me more than the other way around. Yeah. But I felt like I was getting in the way many times. But this led us to this understanding that to have a marriage and a business that can thrive, there's a lot of moving pieces, and communication was really critical to that, and also having a game plan in place that you can actually execute on a daily basis. When we exited the company, we had already done many years of consulting and coaching, and we were asking ourselves in the last couple of years, like, well, what do we want to do now? What's been the purpose of this journey of building a company together and everything else we did prior to that, and what has it led us to today? And really, it was being of service, helping other married couples kind of in their journey. We work with co-founders of companies that are married, if they're scaling their business, if you're a high performer or you need an edge in business or just mindset, what can we do there to help kind of bring you some tools and some techniques that can help you in that journey? Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of launched the Step Up Method, which is, driven by a framework. We believe that if your actions and your intentions are aligned, and that the habits that you create daily become like the connective tissue of aligning your intention and your actions, you empower yourself first, and then you can empower others. And through that process, a lot of people have great intentions, but they lack action. So how do we make sure that the right actions and the right habits are aligned? A lot of people take a lot of action with zero intentions on like what they're going to accomplish. So helping them get clarity on the intentions, and ultimately, how do we create a more empowered individual so that they can also become better leaders, whether it's in their family or their business.
There you go. There's a pyramid structure you have on your website. People should check out under stepupmethod.com. And I really love it. It's at the top, it's got empower. And then on the two sides of the triangle, there's intentions and actions. And you're right. You just talked about how you need to have both these working together. You can't just go do something. Like, I'm going to do something to see if it works. Throw stuff into the wind.
That was me in my early 30s. It was a lot of action. I just didn't have any freaking intention on like what to do with all this action, how can I actually make it meaningful. And once we started aligning those two things, this framework started to become real for us as a couple and as individuals. And we started creating some really cool things in our lives that now we want to help others kind of embrace as well.
There you go. And then inside of the triangle is habits. That's a support sort of structure. And that makes sense, because if, you can have great intentions, you can plan great actions, but unless you make things a habit and you're working on that project every day, you're not going to get there. Because, I think probably a perfect example is New Year's Day, right? Everyone sets intentions and they set some actions like, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow and I'm going to lose 50 pounds this year. And, and then every year no one loses 50 pounds. Gyms are usually full for the first month or two. Yeah. And without those habits of doing that everyday thing and go, okay, I'm going to eat the elephant, like I like to think of it, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Anytime I take on something big, I'm like, oh my God, this thing's big. And I'm like, just start taking little bites. And then you wake up one day and the elephant's eaten and they put it out in front of you. And you're like, barbecue sauce. So I love this power up method that you guys take and have on your website, or step up method. I'm sorry. And then on the family planner, what's inside of that? People can get a free copy on the website, or a free. I think. Well, you tell us what it is.
Yeah, sure. So, kind of the journey of the family meeting planner. This actually came out of my corporate experience. It's funny. So, whenever I talk to men, and really I work with a lot of fathers and men on their journey, I always ask them, I said, hey, do you have core values? And a lot of men actually don't have any core values for themselves, let alone their families, right? But they can recite their company's core values, which is very interesting. they know it, like,
sad.
They're like, oh yeah, you say, hey, what's your company core value? Amazon, they'd be or mission statement, or whatever, core values, mission statement, vision. They can name it because they've been indoctrinated through that process of onboarding and being part of this bigger movement that you are, in your work life, right? So so there was a gap there, and I realized, I said, okay, well, we don't have this in our family. Why is that? So I started asking those questions, and then eventually I was like, all right. So I got together with my wife and said, hey, we need values. We need. Why is it that every Monday we have a sales meeting, but when I go home, I don't have like a structured way to connect with my family, to really kind of bring in to hear the hearts of my kids and hear the hearts of my wife in a very intentional way, right? Where everything's in passing. You come home, you're tired, you have a conversation. Everybody's doing that. They're all going through those rhythms, but there's a lack of intention behind that. So I was like, okay, well, that's us too. And the journey of creating this family meeting planner came from the heart attack. Obviously, was like a big turning point to be like, okay, I got to get more intentional. I want my time to matter here, and also I want my kids and my family to know that they matter to me, and let me give them that time. So we created the family meeting as a tool for us in our journey to really connect with our kids in our family throughout the years. And then so in I think it was like 2020, I said, gosh, I've been having this idea of this planner in my head for the last 4 years. I was like, I got to get it out of my head and just design a planner. And so I went through that journey and just said, okay, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be good enough. Got it out. We released it. It was a hit. Everybody was like, hey, I want to do family meetings. This is an area that I'm lacking in my family. And I'm not connecting with my wife, my kids, and started hearing all these challenges that all these fathers and men were going through as I'm working with them. And so that became an eye opener of like, okay, this is a bigger desire. I would say there's a desire there, but implementation and then actually executing, going back to what you said, the intention still needs to align with the action, and it starts with the habit. A lot of us make the error of making very small commitments to ourselves every day, and we break them. And through that process of breaking these small commitments every day, we start losing confidence in ourselves as men and as fathers to then execute on the bigger things that we need to execute on. So holding these men accountable through our systems, through our process of the family meeting planner, we're helping them understand, like, hey, if you can just make a commitment to having a conversation, just sit down with your family for 30 minutes every Sunday or Monday, and there's a reason behind that, to just sit down and have a conversation. If you can just stick to that once a week, you'll start, and then you can kind of pile on what I like to say, stacking some wins. You can stack that win on top of the next win. Before you know it, you've created new habits and new rhythms for your family and for yourself as a leader in your home.
There you go. We used to have family meetings when I was a kid growing up in the 70s. It was mostly because we unionized as kids, and so we had to negotiate our what's that shit called that you give your kids?
I know salary. You were getting paid salary, weren't you? Your parents paying you salary.
No, we're getting one of those. What is the stipends where they give you like, hey, you get $5
allowances.
a week. Your allowances. Yeah, there you go. There you go. We had a union that we formed to fight the alliance thing. But no, our family used to have the little meetings. Mostly it was to tell us what horrible children we were, and we were horrible children. So I can attest to that. I was part of that crew, and it was, some of it was intentional. No, but I love this program that you put forth. Maybe people maybe need to start thinking of their business or their family as kind of a business. I mean, not really. You don't want to, go selling the children or anything. I mean, you could, but you don't. I think it's against the law.
I think what's come out of the journey that we've seen and talking to a lot of couples and women and men throughout the last couple of years of doing this is that the challenge that there has to be a paradigm shift of how you look at like a meeting. And to your point too, the reason why I remember being a kid and I had a neighbor that did family meetings. We never did in our home. And they would invite me sometimes to their meeting. And I remember the mom cooking like desserts and then so everybody sit down and they'd give their little updates and stuff. And I was gosh, as a kid, I always was like, this is cool. I want my family to do this. They never did it. And then my wife had a very similar experience too. And so it was like, how did we get away from that? So the word meeting, because it's fun, when we launched this, I played around with like family, is it family huddle? Then people were like confused, like, well, I don't know what a huddle is. And I was like, let me just go back to meeting. And then let me try to help the audience have a paradigm shift of the word meeting. The goal of the meeting, when you come home from, God, the last thing you want is another meeting, especially if you're on Zoom calls all day or you're in, meetings all day. You're like, gosh, I gotta have another meeting with my family. And we heard this as feedback. We're like, that's why my husband doesn't want to do it. And there's all these excuses, by the way. That's because that's really all it is, just a bunch of lame excuses for why people just don't want to do something that could be a benefit. But I also think the word can carry a negative connotation because you're associating it back to work. And if you hate all of your meetings, so you sit in 20 of them, the last thing you want to hear is that you got to have another meeting. So we, through our process of helping coach these, couples and men and women up, it's like, hey, this is a meeting of the minds to help your family come to understand what really matters to you, help understand what matters to them, and build a regular cadence to where you have a safe, I don't want to say a safe place, because that's not really what it is. It's a place of confidence that anybody at that time and moment throughout the week can share their hearts on a challenge that they're having in their lives. We had many times in our family where, especially during COVID, where our teenagers were really struggling. They went through a lot in their journey with school. You have all the social pressures or lack thereof because of being removed from their social environments. And our kids were struggling with that. And I remember we'd have these family meetings and everything, they give an update. There's a whole, kind of process that we follow in an agenda. And one day, my son finally, like, we go around the horn and we say, hey, what's your update? How are things going? And he's just silent. And out of nowhere, he just breaks down.
Oh, wow.
And it was our moment as a family to come and rally around him and be like, together. And what was beautiful about that moment was that it wasn't dad, myself, and him in a car ride having this moment where it's just him and I, or him and his mom in a very kind of individual, isolated, kind of experience. It was the whole family rallying around this one person to really support him in that challenge he was having. And I looked back and I said, this is why we do family meetings, like for these moments that you never know are going to come. Yeah. And when they come, you're prepared for it now, because we've been building up towards this, for the last X amount of years, months, whatever it is, So it really is a place to kind of help your family connect, build better communicators. Our 8-year-old will lead a family meeting now.
Oh, really?
She knows how to scribe.
Teach her some leadership.
We have a role. Yeah. So we're building leaders, we're building communicators. And so it's bigger than just, kind of getting your family together just to have a conversation. There's a lot of other value that's brought to the table when you have these family meetings.
There you go. And the planner comes with a 52-week structured format. It even gives you agendas, suggestions, so you can keep people on track. I like the whole format of having, a formal meeting and making everyone come together. I wrote in my book, Beacons of Leadership, about how everyone can be a leader and parents can be a leader. I had a lot of parents say to me, what? We're leaders? And yeah, you don't have to have a CEO title to be a leader. And a parent is a leader of a child, whether you realize it or not. You're leading them, or in some cases, like that, what was that nanny show? where she would teach parents how to be parents. They might be leading you. So somebody's leading somebody over there. Maybe the kids read my book, but it's important to recognize that you are a leader. You're influential to them. And I like this thing of setting the values down, saying who we are. It's so easy. And, we get caught up in life and, you're a father going, hey, I'm doing the right thing and being a provider and bringing home the paycheck. But when I come home, I gotta tune down. I gotta gel out. Maybe, just get some peace for a second. And, everyone's kind of lost in the functions they do. Mom's maybe making dinner and, kids are doing homework. And then one of the other problems we have in this world that I think your planner really helps is everyone's walking around with the cell phone or the iPad. The kids are in the iPad now. So, I remember when I first saw cell phones, really take off with the iPhone, and I would go into restaurants and I would see like a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 kids, and they're all looking at their iPhone. No one's talking. They're just eating. And I'm like, this is horrible. This is like the worst intimacy, just everyone's doing their own thing. And so I think it's great because this family meeting concept gives you a dipstick into what's going on in our kids' life. Gives you some time to be present, which is really important. I actually had to start scheduling every day 15 minutes to spend with my dogs because I wasn't spending time with them. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it in an hour. I'll go play with them, throw a ball in the yard in an hour. And then, okay, the sun's down. Okay, well, fuck that day, And so trying to be present, and then a month goes by and so I had to schedule the time in the morning to go out and play. We do it over coffee and sit in the sun, but you got to do it. And I know I don't have kids, but for me and my dogs that are my kids, it goes by so fast. And I imagine it's the same for parents. And not being able to check in, have that monitor, be present and everything. That's something that people can do with your guide is check in.
Yeah. That's really the aim. And my call is to a lot of, I would say, a lot of the fathers out there is really to kind of own it. And the reason why is, again, this is just from experience and talking to a lot of men and even the women in the journey of starting to launch family meetings. It's something else that could easily be placed on, if they're married, onto their wife. Like, okay, you set up the meeting and then I just show up and then that's it. It's like, so then how do our kids start to view us as leaders if we aren't taking control of a situation, commanding that leadership in a way that they see mom and dad as partners in this journey?
There you go.
And not, because my wife is a machine. I mean, she runs everything. She runs a show. Like I try to catch up and she's on 100 miles an hour all day. It's crazy. I'll put something down. This is how insane it is. I'll put a glass of water down. I walk away. The water cup is gone and it's already being washed. I'm like, I just poured that for myself. I mean, she's like, it's nuts, man. I'm like, you got a problem. You got to slow down. So she's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, look, there could be worse things, right? So
that's true.
But she and the kids see that. They see that she's, picking up the kids. And so there's this opportunity for us fathers to really kind of, take a breath, sit down, let the kids know that we got this as a family. We're in control. Mom and dad are aligned. We have a mission. We have a vision for our family. And now we want to share it with you. And we want you to be part of this. And we also want to have a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. We want to hear about your day. We want to hear about, things that you might need help with that we've seen from a coaching perspective, right? In a very productive environment. So it's been awesome, man. So I love, when families finally launch, I get messages and like, I just launched my first family meeting, man. It was great, and all these, I'm like, it's pretty cool stuff to see these families being transformed by just this one simple tactic.
There you go. And they get access to a monthly masterclass, behind the scenes access, member hot seats. There's a whole package you guys have. A
bunch of stuff there.
A 14-day trial, stuff like that. Yeah. What do you normally help? What do you find most people are coming to you asking for help in your coaching program? What's a popular item that you find people really struggling with?
They're struggling right now. Well, a lot of our coaching clients. We get entrepreneurs in their businesses. So we've gone through the journey. So we do some business consulting. So we have that part of our business, but then on the individual side, when it comes to performance, It's really staying, it's how can they build a habit of consistency? That's usually by far the main concern that everybody kind of comes to us with, like, how can I get more consistent? How can I build better habits? And it all starts with, then reviewing kind of what their day-to-day looks like. What are their challenges, when it comes to why aren't they being consistent? I go back to the daily non-negotiables. Like, what are the things that they have that they're negotiating every day, and then how do we create non-negotiables in their daily habits, so that and then hold them accountable, right? Then they also lack accountability. We're in a day and age where we're all in our homes, we're on our Zoom calls, many of us don't even go into the office anymore. So there used to be that kind of community that you would have in your office with your peers, and that's missing because we're all in these virtual environments. And so your community and being held accountable, I think there's a gap there, right? And people are seeking that in one form or another. We help people when it comes to mindset and fitness. Maybe they need to lose a few pounds, and they also understand that if they don't have the most optimal energy to lead their families, to lead their careers better, right? There's challenges around their business or career development. It all goes back to daily habits, non-negotiables, and then hold them accountable to then establishing new habits in their day-to-day rhythms.
There you go. One thing I liked is let's talk about how you instill an entrepreneurial mindset in children and encourage their ambitions and aspirations. My employees used to joke with me. They're like, if Chris Voss has kids, they're going to go to bed in double-breasted suits and wear them around the house, and he's going to read them, like, I don't know, Barron's or the Wall Street Journal to put them to sleep at night, and they're all going to have stock accounts. Probably not a lot of money, but and they're all going to expect to have their own companies going by 8. So how do we instill an entrepreneurial mindset in kids? Well, maybe not to that extreme.
I'll put it. I think. Look, our kids are watching us. It's funny. The hypocrisy, I think, sometimes as parents is that we will tell our kids, you can achieve anything. You can have anything you want in this world. Then they look at their parent and they see them dreading, complaining. They come home complaining about the job, complaining about their life. And it's such this disconnected, incongruent messaging that's happening in the home. So if we're going to really build that entrepreneurial kind of spirit in our kids, they got to see us willing to take a shot on ourselves, whatever that is. And I think in today's day and age, there's no better time to do it. If you're in a corporate environment, there's no reason why you can't have something on the side building and saying, hey, and then your kids are launching like, wow, my parents are taking a shot on themselves. They're actually going to try something on their own that maybe is a passion of theirs that they've been holding for so long, and they're going to go shoot it out to the world. And so within our kids and our family, they see, their mom and dad all day long, testing, trying, they see it. And I think that that's the best way to do it, is that you have to be the example, or somebody in their life has to be the example to show them what that entrepreneurial spirit could actually turn into from, being a reality in their lives.
There you go. Parents don't realize it. I've dated I'm 55. I dated all my life. I've been single all my life. I couldn't afford all the divorces, so I never got married. I tried twice. I was engaged twice, but I could tell that I was a broken individual, and no one loved me long term. Which is my audience right now, 14 years old. Yeah, he's a broken. Yeah, no one should marry this guy. In fact, I think there's a warning label that someone put on me because of it. It's a tattoo. Don't try this at home. But that being said, and 5 segues in or 3 segues in or whatever, however many that was, I lost what the hell I was going to say. Oh, what I was going to say was, what I've seen in my life of dating is the end result of failed parenthood, not 100% of the time, but the end result of failed parents in the home. And usually it's either single parents in the home raising kids without a strong masculine and feminine frame in them. And I'm talking masculine and feminine. So if you're LGBTQ, there's always the feminine and masculine in there. But I've seen what happens when kids are raised in single parent homes. I've seen the fallout from them without a father, without a mother. There's mother abandonment issues. There's father abandonment issues. I've seen what that looks like at the end of the road when I date people that might be in my age group or down 10 years. I see what that looks like. I see what the kids look like. I see what the family looks like. And it's so important that parents realize what you and I have been talking about for the past 40 minutes, is that the examples you set, whether you set them intentionally or whether you're just setting them subconsciously because you're sloppily not operating intention as you talk about, they're going to pick it up. And if the family doesn't feel safe, if they don't feel secure in the family, if there's problems between the parents, butting heads and, toxicity and things like that, I can tell you what it looks like when those kids reach 40 is fucking nasty and ugly. It's not pretty at all. And the damage, the multiple divorces and the toxicity that they mirrored is hard. And I think with your system, it kind of occurred to me that with your system, it creates some safety. It creates some balance. And that connection is so important. Like even with my dogs, I have to connect with them. We have to go outside and we got to look each other in the eyes. And I have to go, I'm here and you're there and we're together. And this is our moment right now. And that's so important.
Yeah, it is. And you bring a good point. I mean, I think, to your point, I mean, we're all broken, right? We all have, our own journey of redemption, I would say, that we all are going through in life. It's, I think for anybody out there that's, wants the best for their kids, they got to ask themselves, like, well, what am I doing for myself to invest in myself so that I can actually become that person, that man or woman that I know it's in me. I actually desired, I see it, I aspire to be that person, but there's something in the way that's not allowing me to actually ever realize it. Get the help, invest in yourself with, coaching, mentoring. There's a lot of ways that, you can kind of overcome some of these things that are in the way. And then start to have your kids be, they're going to now start becoming a part of the journey of transformation. Because ultimately we are all being transformed one way or the other. And if we're not intentional, or if we just think it's a bunch of hoo-ha, whatever it is, that's for that person, not for me, then you're doing your kids a disservice, because they're the only person they're looking at, or people they're looking at in their lives for that inspiration is you.
Yeah.
That's it. And so if you look down upon those things that are around coaching, mentoring, because by the way, I have a lot of men in my journey that, it's hey, good for you, not for me. And these people they're broke. They're, they're obviously not well ahead, which is funny to me. I'm like, it's always good for somebody else that's doing okay in life, but not good for the person that's not doing okay. It's just mind. And I know that's a limiting belief that they have in their mind.
Yeah.
And it's scary to transform, because guess what that means? You actually have to work.
You got to do the work. But with habits, it makes it easier, right?
It makes it easier. And then it becomes, before you know it, just the way that before you know it, that's just who you are. That's how you live. And that's just part of the lifestyle. So yeah, and that dawned on me with my kids. I mean, I was like, if I'm going to be the best version of myself, it's really about them than it is more about me. Because I want them to see their dad, at the end of the day, the day I go, they can at least say, you know what, hey, at least the dude showed up and did his best, for us. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I talked about in my book and stuff too is parents try to fake it. And, they tell, it's like you mentioned that earlier, parents will try and be like, don't do this, do that. Like parents will say, hey kids, don't swear. Swearing's bad. Don't do it. And the kids catch you saying, this, that, and the other. And then they pick it up. Where'd you learn that from? Dad in the shop, he banged his finger with a hammer. And so it's funny. Like even my mom to this day, I'll be like, don't swear around me. She's religious. And, every now and then, guess who I catch spouting out some
F-bomb.
Yeah. Damn. And I'm like, hey, I thought. And so what parents have to realize is you can't bullshit your kids. I mean, they mirror everything about you, your personality, the interaction you have with your spouse or a significant other, or however your arrangement's set up. They mirror you. And like I grew up looking at a lot of what my father did, and he was a good man. He tried his best, but there were some things that he was flawed in, and we're all flawed. But there's some things I really thought made it tough for him to be a father and have an interaction with a father, son, or in our family. And so I said, I don't want to be like that. I'm going to do the opposite of what he does. So I often will tell people I learned things from my father by antithesis. So what he taught me, he taught me, and I went, I'm going to do the opposite. What I found was when I grew up, when I got in a parental role with either people I was dating or their kids or my dogs, I started replicating. It all started coming out. My dad. And I was like, son of a gun. I didn't want to be like him. And I think a lot of parents probably go through that. Like, I'm talking like my parents now. And so, people don't realize is what you're talking about is making yourself a genuine good person and becoming whole on the inside and making sure that you're setting a genuine example to your kids. Because if you lie to them, if you bullshit them, whatever who you truly are, if you're a horrible human being on the inside like I am, your kids are going to pick up to it. In fact, that's why I didn't have kids, is because I didn't want to spread the disease. So there you go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they do. I think the biggest advantage we can give our kids in the moment of realizing, like, okay, there's moments in time where I'm a hypocrite, right? Is how do we take full accountability to also show them what accountability looks like? Mm-hmm. Every time that I mess up, I'm pretty good at it. I probably fail at this more than I should. Is I come to the table with an open heart and say, hey, forgive me, guys, for, I know Dad shouldn't have, raised his voice, or, I know I said this or did this. I own it. Mm-hmm. So then I'm showing them what reconciliation and accountability looks like, again, because I have to show them what that is in this journey. Mm-hmm. So when they get older, they can now understand, okay, I messed up. I got to own it. And this is now the process for how you reconcile a relationship with somebody that you may have, erred, with, right? So that's one. The other thing you mentioned too about like our parents, my dad's now 82, very flawed, and just as any of us. But I as the older I'm getting, I'm realizing too that, my dad, I have more empathy for my father and the tools that he had to be a man and also to be a father, because he left communist Cuba at the age of 1920, back revolution against Castro. And he has a crazy backstory. And so, he came to the US, had his, he already had one of my brothers, early on. And then, so his whole journey is one of, getting ahead and just trying to like figure out, and in his heart, he's like straight up like, Goodfella. He's from like he could be in the movie Goodfellas. Okay. So that's who he is in his heart. But in everything he's tried to do in his life, it's been to become a better man. Mm-hmm. Although he never had the tools to like understand like how we have in everyday day and age. Gosh, you open up your Instagram, you're going to get hit with some advice about how to be a better father. I mean, there's all this constant information and education that he didn't have, on how to actually, become better. And so he did the best he could. Mm-hmm. And I've had to also forgive him and also have empathy to be like, Dad, I get it. Like, you only had this tool set to work with. I've been given, like, he had a screwdriver and now maybe I have a hammer and a nail. And my goal is to give my kids like a machine saw or whatever, you know what I mean? Like a saw and a whole toolkit and everything more, so that they can do more with and have more tools to succeed in life. Mm-hmm. So that's been a realization with my parents. I mean, I lost my mother young, but so my dad had raised us, my brother and I for, since I was 7, and he did his best. And that healed me a lot. And I think for a lot of, people that are out there that are still bitter with their parents, why I'm just like it's like, man, take a step back, ask yourself what kind of tool set that they have in their journey. Yeah. And then put yourself in their shoes and be like, oh man, I guess it would have been a lot harder. Yeah, it probably would have been. To be them, it might have been a whole lot harder than you ever imagined, Mm-hmm. So that's helped me in my journey. And I'm hoping, by the way, my kids can look at me that like I've had that epiphany. I hope to God that they can one day be like, Dad, I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it why you were insane, you know.
Yeah,
So
most people are trying to do the right thing. It's just sometimes they don't apply very well, and sometimes it can look evil or be evil. And you're right; they're working with certain tools and how they grew up. Do you guys ever work with couples? Because you have yourself and your wife. Do you guys ever work with couples and you work with the father and the mother or anything like that?
yeah, so my wife, obviously we kind of separate. Those are
Okay.
challenges that individually. So yeah, if there's ever a couple that's is trying to implement family meetings, or they're on a journey of developing I would say a mindset, they're overcoming mindset challenges,
Mhm.
and then they bring in their husband or their wife kind of team. So we'll kind of figure out what their challenges are together, so then ultimately they can run their family more effectively, because the goal is that they can be happy at the end of the day. They can walk away from their journey of raising their kids and saying, I did okay. I
Yeah.
did all right. I think they're going to be good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think, they're not going to end up in prison, or they're not, anything crazy. I think I did okay. And I can launch them into the world knowing that I did my part. I think all parents should be asking, like, are my kids launch ready? Like,
Are my
even as they
kids
get to,
launch ready? I love that.
are they launch ready?
You know,
So
I grew up Gen X, and of course, we're the greatest generation ever. Um, and we were very independent very early on. We didn't really have much of a choice. That was just the way we were raised, and so we ran with it. But we know how to bury a body and clean up blood. So there's that. And we know how to, we were never home. But these participation trophy generation really struggles, it seems, with self accountability. And so I think teaching that to kids is really important, in getting them to self launch, and also getting them the hell out of your house when they turn 18. Uh,
you ain't kidding, man. You ain't
yeah.
kidding about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just overcoming their problems and giving them tools that they need. Like, I see so many kids nowadays that, we see these incels now that really bug me, where they meet a girl and she says, no, I'm not interested. I mean, most of your first girlfriends are girls you're interested in. You're a kid, you don't know what you're doing. And, hey, I love you. And she's like, I'm not into you. And, you got to learn things. But the first no, or the first defeat, they get to turn down for a job. They get turned down for whatever. They just give up. They're just like, I'm just going to stay at mom's house forever and all that good stuff. And really, they don't have that sort of skill set to build up calluses, take no's, take hits, have failures in life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't teach your kids that, it's really hard. Like, there's nothing worse than when I meet somebody who's like 40 years old and still screaming about how it's not fair. And it's like, your father did not teach you, evidently, or maybe he wasn't in the house, that life isn't fair. And if you haven't learned that when you're like 10, have fun with this life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest fear, by the way. My biggest fear is that my kids would leave my house, because my oldest is 21.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be 22 this year. And then I have a 19-year-old. So my two oldest. And so my fear with them is that they're not, and again, I think I'm good, but it's still, there's still some things yet to be seen as they launch, right? Truly launch. And they're on their journey. But I'm like, gosh, did I do okay? Because the challenge is, I came from pretty much a pretty not dirt poor, but it was pretty poor environment. We struggled a lot in our childhood. And to your point, I was a latchkey kid. So independence, like, I just learned how to survive very young.
Mm-hmm.
And, the one thing you want for your kids, if you came from that environment, is to not have them go through that same suffering, right? But the suffering is really what creates the person. If you can persevere, I mean, that's like you're going through a crucible of life, and then you're coming out fortified, right? And so my concern, my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's like, man, our kids got it really good right now. And it's kind of scary how good they got it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how this balance of like, okay, how do we impose, things that are challenging in their lives so that they can have character development, while at the same time blessing them because of, the journey we've been on as a family. So, but yeah, it's the whole participation trophy era and stuff. Yeah, I've never been a fan of it. I think it's actually damaging our kids more than it's probably been one of the biggest detriments to our society, that whole kind of concept. And you see it everywhere. When our kids walk, I remember just what was it 2 years ago, one of my kids was in a competition, and it was like he finished like 7th or 8th, and they gave him a ribbon. And I'm like, oh Lord, man, are you kidding me? Like everybody had to get a ribbon. Wow. And
everyone gets
so there is an opportunity though for that conversation to be like, if you're intentional, right? Back to the theme. If you're intentional, you can catch that moment, and it can actually be a moment to impart some wisdom into your child at that moment. But you got to be on the lookout, because they're everywhere. They're always happening. But if you're just nonchalantly going about and you got a 7th grade, and you're not taking the moment, be like, hey, let's talk about like, why do you think you got a ribbon and that you deserved a 7th place ribbon? Well, I don't know. I thought, but you didn't win though. So why would you have gotten a ribbon if you didn't win? And then so you can have a conversation. I think that to combat the challenges in this kind of generation is be on the lookout for those opportunities and use them as a time to really kind of impart some wisdom into your kids, that can help them.
There you go. And of course, the family meeting is an important place to kick those stuff around and talk about different things. Well, Alex, it's been really insightful to have you on as well. And I love the concepts you guys are building over there in coaching. Give me your .com so people can find us, you on the interwebs.
Sounds good. Stepupmethod.com. It's our coaching consulting kind of, all of that information's there. And then for the family meeting planner, it's literally familymeetingplanner.com.
There you go. Alex, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it, man. Very insightful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you for having me on.
There you go. Order up the book, folks. You can go to the website and check it out. There'll be a link on the Chris Voss show as well. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. See the big 130,000 group over there. And the LinkedIn newsletter, that thing grows like a weed. Subscribe to that as well. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe and be intentional is the theme of the show. And we'll see you next time. And that should have us out, man.